Hey, welcome to Apprentice Marks. My name's John. In this video, we're going to try and fix a busted kitchen drawer. Let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look at the damage here. This is the drawer in question. The problem with it is that this front here is busted. It looks like this front here has been pulling off for quite a while. And, well, there you go. The whole thing actually just pulled right apart on me without even really trying. In terms of why the drawer is behaving this way, I think one of the major issues is the choice of joinery. You can see that in the front corner here, as well as the front corner there, and it's not quite visible, but the back corner over here as well. Whoever built this drawer has chosen to just do a mitered corner. And it's a mitered corner on this particle board type material here, which, I mean, of itself, this particle board type material is not bad. It's perfectly suitable for building kitchen drawers, and in fact, most modern kitchens are built out of it. But when you do a butt joint along this particle here, there's fuck all holding the joint together. And as pressure is constantly put on this front panel, you're pulling on these two joints here, and there's not a huge amount of holding strength on this joint, and so eventually it just breaks. Now, it looks like somebody might have tried to drive a screw in the front at some point, or in the side at some point. Yeah, so there's a, not sure if you can see it here, let me try and twist this. There's a screw head sitting right here. It looks like when this was built, someone tried to drive a screw from the front behind the panel back into the side here to attempt to add strength. But fundamentally, the issue at hand is just the weakness of this joint. I'm not certain that any of these pieces are usable. I mean, if I actually wanted to try and repair this thing, I could probably take it apart and try and put some kind of a peg through these mitered corners here and maybe buy a little bit of time. But the problem that I see with that is that the material, this particle board stuff here, tends to flake on the inside. It's kind of like a compressed sawdust or something. There's not a huge amount of strength to it. And so I suspect that any kind of a peg that I'd put through there is really just going to pull out in time. And that's going to be a pain in the ass. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pull it apart and I'm going to build new sides to the drawer out of MDF. I've got some 1/2-inch MDF kicking around the shop. That'll work just fine to replace these. We'll keep the drawer bottom because it's perfectly serviceable. And of course we'll keep the drawer face because it matches the rest of the existing kitchen. And then we'll hang on to these slides here and we'll attach them to the new drawer that'll replace this. Alright, so here's a little bit more detail of what I intend to do. I've gone ahead and measured the outer width, depth, and height of the existing drawer. That's what we got to match. If we screw that up, then it's not going to fit in the drawer slot. And the way that I'm going to build the drawer, instead of those miter joints that were a problem last time, is a joint that, believe it or not, is called a drawer joint. It's a form of mortise and tenon. So if you picture this as the corner here, and this is drawn to some sort of scale, in the sense that each square of my graph paper is 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. My material is 1/2 inch wide, and so I've got one, probably the long side coming in here of the drawer, and then the front or the back face coming in here of the drawer. And so I'm basically going to rabbet out 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch on the bottom side here, and then I'm going to cut a corresponding 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch dado inside of the side drawer, 1/4 inch back from the side of the drawer, and then we're going to slot the front or the back into that slot there. And so what's going to happen is that as you constantly pull and exert force in this direction, going down, you're going to be pulling back on the drawer, but this tab here is going to make it so that you're actually pulling back on the meat of this joint, as opposed to just pulling constantly on that mitered edge that has nothing bracing it. So this is going to be a much stronger joint in the long run, and hopefully will last the life of the drawers. So I have the saw set up to cut the rabbets and dados that are going to form the basis of our drawer joint. One of the nice things about this joint is that one table saw setup will do all the work. So in the saw, I've got my box joint blade, which is effectively just a dado blade. All it is a blade that can cut varying width rabbets or dados with a flat bottom. So it was sold as a box joint blade because it can only cut 1/4 inch dados or 3/8 inch dados. In this case, my material is 1/2 inch wide, so a 1/4 inch dado suits me perfectly. So I've got that in, I've got it raised 1/4 inch above the table saw table, and I've got a sacrificial fence pressed right up against it here, so that effectively when I push a piece along here, what I'm gonna get is a 1/4 inch rabbet right through the piece. And I've got a little demo piece here that I've done just to try out the setup, and you can see it's a 1/2 inch wide, the same width as the work that I'm gonna be using, and I've cut that 1/4 inch rabbet right on the edge there. So if we cut the 1/4 inch rabbet like that on the far ends of each of our front and back pieces, and then we push this fence backward a 1/4 inch and cut the dados in the ends of our side pieces, everything should mesh together perfectly. One thing that I found about woodworking is that being perfect usually doesn't count for much. My dados in this case are 1/4 inch wide, and so are the tabs that I'm trying to fit in them, so I had to take a second pass at the dados and widen them out by just like a 1/64 of an inch just to give a hair of space for that tab to fit in. Let's glue it together. That's a pretty simple glue up. Speed is not going to be much of an issue here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put glue in all of my joints. And we'll knock this together real quick. And then I've got some 3/4 inch brad nails that we're going to pop in. That'll help to hold it together while everything dries. Shut the fuck up. I've got this space heater in here. It's a piece of shit, but it's the only thing that lets me work in the sub-zero Canadian winter. And I hate it because it has this error code, E1. I have no idea what E1 means. It seems to be a general error code. I've checked the user's manual. Not much help, frankly. And it basically just beeps constantly. Even when I've turned it off for a segment like this, I don't want the heater running because you'd hear it, and that would be annoying. Now, the astute woodworking video watchers among you will have noticed that I've put glue in the slot that's reserved for the bottom plate here. You might be saying, John, no, don't glue that bottom plate in there. You never glue the bottom plate in. It's supposed to sit floating. And you'd be right, except that in this case, we've built our drawer out of MDF. And MDF doesn't move the way that natural wood moves. It doesn't expand and contract and shrink. It's basically fancy cardboard MDF. So I'm not anticipating any wood movement issues in this drawer. And so I feel comfortable putting glue in that joint and using it to add a little bit of strength to my drawer. So I think it's going to be fine. I mean, time will tell if I'm wrong or not, but I can't imagine that I can screw it up any worse than the last guy who built this damn drawer. So I suspect I'll be okay. And we'll fire a couple of brads in just to keep it together while the glue dries. And like I said earlier, these are 3/4 inch brads, so They're just sinking about 1/4 inch into the receiving piece, not a big deal. I don't make sponsored videos, but if there was a company that made coffee that wanted to sponsor me, I think I'd go over pretty well. Get in touch. The glue is dry and it's time for a coat of white paint to match the original drawer. Okay, I'm headed out to my brother-in-law's to install this drawer, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to take any video out there, so I thought I'd give you a rundown of what I'm taking. I've got the drawer itself, of course, and the 2 tracks that came off of the old drawer. And then I've got some of the hardware from the old drawer as well. So I've got the handle here that will also work to affix the face frame on. I've got 4 little screws that are for putting the tracks back on, and then I've got these 2 screws here that kind of came from the inside of the drawer into the front plate as well to help secure it, in addition to the machine screws that go through the handle. I've got a couple of drill bits here, one for pre-drilling for the tracks, and one for pre-drilling for the handle. And then I've got some Robertson screwdrivers for driving the hardware back in. I've got my drill that I'm going to be taking with me, and of course I've got the faceplate. So we've got our mobile workshop here ready to go. And if I can, I'll take some video of the actual job.
I wasn't able to take any video of the installation process, but it was a pretty straightforward thing. I started by putting the old tracks onto the new drawer box, and I made sure to pre-drill all the holes so I didn't crack the MDF. With that done, I slid the drawer into place, and I used some folded over paper to space the front of the drawer, the part that's actual visual that you see, away from the cupboards on either side and below it. With drawer face spaced properly, I was able to use my big drill bit to mark the holes that I would have to drill in the front of it to affix the handle to the drawer. And then I drilled those out, put the handle in from the back, added a couple extra screws for stability, and all was done. My work on this job went over really well with my brother-in-law. He really appreciated the fact that I was able to fix his drawer, and the new drawer looks like it's going to hold up a whole lot better than the old drawer. That's about it for this video. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like or subscribe to my channel, and if you want to see what I'm up to between videos, head over to Twitter/ApprenticeMarks to keep an eye on my progress. If you'd like to see more of what I do, check out ApprenticeMarks.com for full write-ups of everything that I'm working on. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great day.